Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Lisa. I'm a Sexual Health Outreach Lead, and I'm joined by my colleague Modesta, who's an HIV nurse specialist based at the Ashwood Centre in Kettering. Today we will be providing you an overview of HIV in the UK. As this is a recorded presentation, if you have any questions, we've included our contact details at the end of this presentation. We will welcome you getting in touch with us at a later date. Hope you enjoy it. We plan to give you a whistle-stop tour in providing some back-to-basic facts about HIV, covering the last 40 years in the UK. We're going to explain the UK's ambitious new HIV Action Plan, recap on what HIV is and look at how prevalent it is now in the UK and Northampton this year. Mostly, we hope you will find this interesting and it will prompt you to research HIV and discuss with your colleagues, friends and family. I just want to pose this question before we start for you to consider. Think about what you think when you hear HIV. Let's start with a quick trip down memory lane with early HIV campaigns. In 1986, the UK government launched the AIDS education campaign, Don't Die of AIDS. Often this was misreferred to as the Don't Die of Ignorance. Actually, this was the title of the leaflets delivered to every UK household. Along with the macabre Tombstone TV ads, this started HIV campaigning in the UK. Until then, the government tried to suppress HIV warnings, arguably because so little was understood of HIV. There were mixed reviews about the success of this campaign, but there's no doubt it was powerful. Unfortunately, it did cement a national fear of HIV, starting a stigmatised view of the virus. And at a time when little was known about the virus, and there was no effective treatments, and healthcare support was mainly palliative, and there was no cure. Some of you will have seen this acclaimed Channel 4 series, It's a Sin. It's a fairly accurate portrayal of how life was in the early 80s for people with HIV, portraying ordinarily healthy young gay men disproportionately experiencing a high death rate from a little understood virus. The series offers a glimpse of the heartbreaking scenarios of the stigma and prejudice suffered across families and friendships, and the lack of compassion and dignity even within healthcare settings. Something started to change when Princess Diana started visiting HIV wards. For the first time, a prominent figure was publicly demonstrating support and sympathy by hugging and shaking hands with people dying of HIV, basically treating people like human beings. And although this started to turn the tide on people's perception of HIV, there was still a long way to go. The basis of stigma is fear and ignorance, and we can trace back the roots of HIV stigma from the early 80s. Negative reporting across the press, i.e. through HIV scare stories, heighten the discrimination of gay men, which is filtered across the LGBTQ+ communities, and is also evident within some cultural and religious communities. In particular, the fear of being outed within some communities can deter people from getting HIV tested or disclosing their status. And this in turn, not knowing their status, risks onward transmission and also poor health outcomes. We're going to jump to 2020. With the UK's first HIV Action Plan launched on World AIDS Day. This was prompted by the 2018 United Nations Programme on HIV and AIDS, their goal to eliminate HIV transmission by 2030. The UK's HIV report was a collaboration between the HIV Commission, Elton John Foundation, Terence Higgins Trust, National AIDS Trust and the government. and it cites 20 milestone actions needed to enable UK to be the first country to end all new HIV cases by 2030. A big challenge. So why is this important? To get us to this target, the NHS in particular has a key role to play. Normalising and increasing HIV testing is key. We know that through Public Health England's anonymous blood sampling, around 6,000 people with HIV go undiagnosed in the UK. So mass testing and early diagnosis and treatment are key to a good outcome. We can do this by encouraging opt-out testing. We also need to widen access to HIV fast testing across the NHS. And for example, a good example is antenatal screening, where HIV testing is normalised and has an uptake of over 97%. So people will test if they're offered to do one. We also need to address health inequalities. One example of a proven success is the increased availability of pre-exposure prophylaxis, or PrEP. This is a regular HIV medication taken to avoid transmission, particularly targeted to individuals who have more risky and regular unprotected sex. I'm just going to hand you over to my colleague now, Modesta.
Thank you, Lisa. Hello, everyone. So let's just jump into the difference between HIV and AIDS. HIV stands for Human Immune Deficiency Virus, while AIDS stands for Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome, which consists of one or more opportunistic infections. However, now it's commonly referred to as late or end-stage HIV. The term AIDS is no longer used in healthcare settings. HIV is transmitted from one person to another through unprotected sex, sharing needles, among intravenous drug users, mother-to-child transmission, and through contaminated blood product. So if left untreated, HIV weakens the immune system, leaving the body vulnerable to virus disease and infections. Approximately 105,200 people in UK live with HIV, of which 94% are aware of their diagnosis, and 98% of those diagnosed are on treatment. 41% of the newly diagnosed are men having sex with men, while 18% are from African community, of which 90% of those are heterosexual, and 50% are thought to have acquired HIV while living in UK. From 2021, we now have key advancement in HIV treatment. There is better understanding of HIV and availability of HIV testing. People living with HIV are more likely than ever before to die of old age through early HIV diagnosis and treatment. Key issues. Late diagnosis is still an issue. Around 42% of people living with HIV are diagnosed late and undiagnosed from
Sorry, am I on the wrong slide?
Yeah, I don't know. Because the one that I'm doing is I have definitions, then the next slide is prevalence. That's the one I was doing. And then transmission is the third one. Yeah, so I was on that one.
Do you want to start again? They can edit this, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Give me a nod when you want me to change.
Okay. You want me to start from the first one, definitions, or this one?
Which one do you want? We've got HIV prevalence.
Okay, I can do the HIV prevalence. Yeah.
You want prevalence?
Yeah. Okay. So approximately 105,200 people in UK, they live with HIV. of which 94% are aware of their diagnosis, and 98% of those who are diagnosed are on treatment. 41% of the newly diagnosed are men having sex with men, while 18% are from African community, of which 90% are heterosexuals, and 50% of those are thought to have acquired HIV while living in UK. From 2021, we now have key advancement in treatment of HIV through better understanding of HIV and availability of HIV testing. So how is HIV transmitted? HIV is transmitted through bodily fluids like blood, semen, vaginal fluids, and over 90% is through penetrative sex, and 50-50 heterosexual sex, and sex between men having sex with men. About 1.9% from needle sharing among intravenous drug users. This is not a problem in UK since 1985. And 2% from vertical transmission, that is mother to child transmission, from in the womb during birth or breastfeeding. Less than 1%, it's now less than 1% in UK through medical screening and interventions like HIV positive mothers taking ARVs, cesarean section, administering of ARVs to the baby for a month, and encouraging bottle or formula feeding for the baby rather than breastfeeding. Also, contaminated blood fluid transfusion causes HIV transmission, but it's not a problem in UK. It's been safe since 1985, but other countries are at risk because of there's no HIV screening in blood products. Early stages of HIV. HIV may affect the body in numerous ways, as indicated in the picture. Common symptoms are flu-like and usually appears 1 to 3 weeks post-infection. Then the person usually feels better, but over years, the virus will be replicating, destroying the immune defenses cells, leaving the body vulnerable to infections. Seroconversion is a sign that the immune system is reacting to presence of virus. It happens within 3 weeks, and it is the point at which the body produces HIV antibodies. And HIV testing is possible once seroconversion has happened. The test will detect antibodies to give a positive HIV result. U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable. So an HIV positive person who is undetectable, the viral load is undetectable, the chances of that person to transmit the HIV to another person is significantly equivalent to 0. That was shown from the results of the partner 1 and 2 studies done in 2014 and 2018. Let's clarify some misconceptions and myths concerning HIV transmission. So HIV is not transmitted or spread through touching, hugging, shaking hands, kissing, spitting, coughing, sneezing, sharing toilets, or sharing household items like cups. All this is just lack of knowledge and information, which causes stigma. And we should do well to get acquainted with information. treatment. We have ARVs, that is antiretroviral drugs, and this is a combination of very successful medication which reduces the viral load to undetectable or untransmittable, but it's not a cure. We also have PrEP. PrEP stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis. So this can be taken by HIV negative people to protect themselves from getting HIV. And it is for anyone who is at higher risk of getting HIV, for example, anyone who routinely have unprotected sex with multiple partners. We also have post-exposure prophylaxis or PEP. This should be initiated within 72 hours of being exposed to HIV. It's a month worth of ARVs, which are very effective in preventing the virus from taking hold. It is available 24/7 in A&E and also in sexual health departments during the weekdays. We have, as from April 2022, we now have HIV long-acting injectables. And in Northamptonshire, we have got patients who have already started on these injectables. So it's 2 injections, which will be given every 8 weeks. It will replace the daily pill or tablets. It's not suitable for all HIV patients, but can help those who struggle with adherence and or who don't want a daily reminder of their HIV status by taking tablets. And it's also suitable for those people who live in shared accommodations where privacy is a problem. It is only for people living with HIV who are already on ARVs and they are undetectable viral load. So the key issues that we still have are late diagnosis. Around 42% of people living with HIV are diagnosed late. And also we still have some people who are not diagnosed. From the Public Health England blood sampling, it has proven that 1 in 6 people living with HIV do not even know that they are not even aware of their HIV status. And this leads to risk in ongoing HIV transmission. And late diagnosis increases the risk of early mortality rate by 8-fold, and it impacts on quality of life, increases the transmission, and also death. Back to you, Lisa.
Thanks, Modesta. As mentioned previously, a key aim of the HIV Action Plan is increasing HIV testing. This is a key aim of the report, and there's a range of testing options available across services in Northamptonshire and also online. So we have online through accident emergency, in sexual health, GPs, and within antenatal care. And ideally, all NHS departments, in theory, should be offering HIV testing. So, for example, any ward can offer a blood test for HIV. And in the Summers unit, which is part of the HIV service in sexual health, both in Kettering and Northampton clinics, you can get an HIV test by ringing through and discussing an appointment. And I've just mentioned online testing. There is free online testing available via freetest.me for at-risk groups. And those at-risk groups are men that have sex with men, Black and Asian minority ethnic individuals, and intravenous drug users. And I thought just to finish up towards the end of this presentation just to highlight that things are different across the world. This is me running a month's HIV awareness project in Ghana a few years ago. And the picture shows me explaining how to use a femidom, which is essentially a female condom, to quite a few bemused market stall holders. But I'm really showing this slide as a reminder that compared to a lot of third world countries around the world, UK is in a really good position to eradicate HIV. We just all need to do our bit, and getting testing is key to that. So just a follow-up really, just has your perspective of HIV changed? What we'd like to see is that you can discuss some of the things that you've learnt today with your friends and colleagues and family. Over to you, Modesta.
So what's our take-home message? It is important to get tested, knowing our HIV status and widening testing. So we encourage opt-out rather than opt-in. And also, the treatment that we have is very effective. It improves the quality of life. And as healthcare personnel, we all have a duty and responsibility to acquire the knowledge and information concerning HIV so as to tackle and reduce stigma, usually associated with ignorance and fear. If there is any other questions or any other contributions that you would want to add, I would encourage you to visit our webpage, and we do have our contact details on the screen. You can get hold and get in touch with us. So I thank you for listening. Thank you, Lisa. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much.